The rainy season has just come to an end on the plains called Los Llanos in Venezuela. With water all over the place, life is reborn in this muddy landscape. For all the animals whose lives are linked to water, this is the time of year of abundance, when they all mate, raise their young, and seek out new territories. It's the beginning of the greatest adventure for this young speckled caiman. She has left her small summer pool and is looking for new waters where she can get food and a mate. And it looks like she's found them. Most of the speckled caiman's prey are fish. But following the heavy rains, the flooded area of Los Llanos brings larger and more nutritious prey within her reach, as long as she is big enough and strong enough to catch them. And this is going to make things much easier for our first protagonist, because her companions are less aggressive when they're well fed. All caimans, alligators, and crocodiles are territorial. This caiman is guarding his pool and chases off the smaller males. From the water, the recently arrived female keeps her eyes on him. The male sees her and immediately goes into action. Ready to interrogate the intruder, the caiman approaches the newcomer. All of the crocodilians have complex social orders. To communicate among themselves, they have developed a very complete language system using both sight and sound. This language is composed of colors, vibrations, movements, splashes, and a broad range of body gestures that are quite visible above water. When two crocodilians cross paths, the positions of their heads and tails couldn't be more eloquent. Raised visible tails communicate a very clear message. The owner of the larger tail with bigger scales holds the higher rank. And if the message isn't clear enough, then there's an even more expeditious method. This is exactly the message our protagonist receives. The male's dark color and raised tail indicate that she had better obey the boss of the pool or be prepared to fight. The caiman approaches, ready to attack if necessary. The female sees him coming and tries to skedaddle out of there. But the male is stronger and closes in. But while the male thought he was chasing off a rival, he actually finds a young female, and his aggressiveness disappears. Our protagonist already has a new pool, but the calm is short-lived. For the caimans of Los Llanos, it won't be long before trouble appears. Dawn breaks on the other side of the world. Sunrise rouses the northern coast of Australia. The banks of the South Alligator River in Kakadu National Park seem to come to life when the riverside fauna return to their daily activities. Everything seems to fit into the routine seen every morning. But today, there is a new observer on the river. Our second protagonist has just arrived from the coast of Papua New Guinea. He is an adult saltwater crocodile and has swum upriver in search of new territories. Calmly, like an old drifting tree trunk, he swims upstream, scrutinizing the banks. He wants to see if the place offers enough food and safety to stay here. The challenge doesn't scare him, not even when he meets other crocodiles. Not in vain, he is the descendant of a species that has learned to adapt to great changes over the last 80 million years. The first crocodilians that could be classified among today's crocodiles appeared in a world populated by dinosaurs 80 million years ago. How have they been able to survive all this time? What were their evolutionary successes? If we analyze the crocodile's body, we find numerous answers. The first crocodilians lived on land and were reminiscent of the large monitor lizards of today. When the group slowly began to return to an aquatic environment, their bodies changed in such a way that they have hardly needed any further changes since then. This was the crocodile's greatest improvement for life in the water. Nostrils and eyes placed on the top of their heads. This adaptation allows all crocodiles to breathe, observe, and stalk their prey while remaining invisible under the water. Their bodies also became covered with plates that insulate and protect them, making the crocodiles real armored dragons. With ironclad bodies and the ability to stalk their prey undetected, it wasn't long before they became the greatest predators on the world's rivers. This made it possible for the crocodilians to spread throughout most of the world, diversifying into numerous species, from the little dwarf crocodiles of West Africa to the giant saltwater crocodiles, which can reach lengths of about 8 meters or 26 feet and can weigh a ton, literally. Today, there are 22 different species of crocodiles, alligators, caimans, and gharials living in the rivers of America, Africa, Asia, and Oceania. On all 4 continents, their only enemies are those of their own species and man. And our saltwater crocodile is going to meet up with both. We'll find the third and final protagonist of our story on the island of Cuba, in the impenetrable marshes of the Zapata Swamp. It's a Cuban crocodile, the crocodile with the smallest range on the planet and the largest animal indigenous to the island. Our crocodile is looking for a mate, and his arrival hasn't gone unnoticed. There are lots of females in the pool, and also an enormous dominant male who is resting while showing off the attributes that have made him the king of the slough. As long as he's asleep, there's no problem. But the boss of each pool doesn't sleep for very long at a stretch. crocodile decides to hit the road. The swamp is full of sloughs, so he decides to try his luck in another one where the male isn't quite so big, or at least not one of his own species.